This is the Lawhub podcast brought to you by Lawhub Gambia. On this podcast, we discuss critical and existing institutional frameworks, developments, and processes. Join us as we embark on this exciting journey to learn about trafficking in persons, children's rights litigation in the Gambia, women's absence at the decision-making table, barriers to women's access to justice, women land rights, and strategic litigation in the Gambia. The Lawhub podcast is proudly supported by USAID American Bar Association Initiative through its project on promoting rights and justice in the Gambia. Visit our social media platforms on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube to catch up on your favorite episodes. Lawhub Podcast, leveraging technology to promote legal literacy and enhance access to justice in the Gambia. Hello, and welcome to the second phase of the Lawhub podcast series brought to you by Lawhub Gambia. Lawhub Gambia is a legal knowledge institute that provides free and reliable online access to essential Gambian legal resources for researchers, students, policymakers, the legal community, and the general public. This year, Lawhub Gambia brings you a project titled Leveraging Technology to Promote Legal Literacy and Enhance Access to Justice, with support from USAID American Bar Association Rule of Law Initiative through their project on promoting rights and justice in the Gambia. This project is meant to create awareness of the various legal systems in the Gambia, especially with respect to access to justice, women's rights, as well as the processes of approaching the Gambian courts and the specific opportunities and challenges. The Lawhub podcast is one of the activities implemented under this project, created to discuss critical and existing legal and institutional frameworks, developments, and processes. On today's podcast, we have Ms. Elizabeth Bendu from the National Agency of the Legal Aid, NALA. Elizabeth, welcome to the podcast. Could you please introduce yourself to our viewers and tell us about yourself?
Thank you. Like she mentioned, my name is Elizabeth Bendu, and I work at the National Agency for Legal Aid. I am actually a lawyer. I'm a legal officer. And basically what we do, we represent accused persons in court that cannot afford the services of a lawyer. And most of them are like children, minors that are underage. We also represent both male and female as well. Yes.
How long have you been with the Legal Aid Office, and what's it like at the Legal Aid?
I've been there for a year. Before that, I was actually in the private sector.
Okay.
But then after my enrollment, I then moved to the Legal Aid. It's a very interesting place, but then there is a lot of work to be done because there are a lot of people that actually need legal representation, and we see that a lot of people like commit crimes on daily basis, and yet still we are not much in the office to represent them.
Yeah.
But it's actually interesting because you get to meet people, and sometimes you hear comments from the public that, oh, you're representing criminals,
Yes.
and then you wonder. I will be like, well, I'm actually representing accused persons because unless they are proven guilty, they are yet still innocent, and you've not heard their own side of their story. And I believe everybody deserves a second chance. So for me, it's interesting, even though there are a lot of talks from the public to regards to what we do at Legal Aid.
I think people generally believe that accused persons do not deserve legal representation, and I think that's a matter of like personal belief as opposed to what the law actually says.
Yes.
But what was it like switching from private practice to Legal Aid?
It was like starting from scratch because I didn't really have a lot of criminal experience because where I was, I did more of civil cases. I drafted deeds and contracts, other things. But then I think I only had about one or two criminal cases, and we didn't really, I was not really into it, like how I was into the other civil cases, like how I go to court, drafting processes. And so coming to the criminal sector, it was kind of like a new thing. So it's like I have to start all over again. Yeah, but then I'm actually enjoying it. At first, it was somehow, but then with time, when you get used to it, you know what you're doing. And then at least the nerves are less now than before, because appearing in court was crazy initially. But from time to time, yeah, it comes, but it's better than before.
I think that's the thing with legal practices. You just need to do it over and over again, and then you start getting used to it. But from the way you've talked about your job and your career, it seems you have, not it seems, but you do have a good appreciation of the Gambia's legal system and the Gambia's justice system. So how would you explain the Gambia's justice system to a lay person?
Well, I feel like they're actually evolving, because what I hear from before, at least now you see that because of the media, people tend to come to court. People are aware of what to do when they are harmed, like when they are, like, let's say for example, a person is deprived of land or anything. You see that there is that awareness that, okay, if these things happen, I'm supposed to probably report the issue to the court. I believe there is, like, people are trusting the legal system more, because before, because there was no awareness, people don't even know what to do. And when you don't know something, you don't trust that thing. So I believe it's evolving. And I believe with time, people will be coming to the justice system more and more. Of course, we have cases, but I feel like they keep coming. Like, people keep coming now. People keep trusting the justice. And over the years, like, a case used to take a lot of time. I'm not saying they don't anymore, but at least it is better compared. At least I've seen a trial that was done within a short period of time, unlike before. So I believe people, because of the access, we have more lawyers, we have more judicial officers to fasten the process in the judicial system.
That's great, especially in terms of the duration that it takes to complete cases. And I think, like you said, that's why a lot of people used to shy away from the legal system, because you would think, if I have a case that goes to court, I'm going to spend 5 years going back and forth. You know, it doesn't seem like it, you know, it's worth it. Yeah. So given that now, you know, as you said, people are more open to approaching the courts, could you explain the court structure to, like, how would you explain it to a lay person, what the Gambia's court structure is? What types of courts do we have? What do they do?
Oh, okay. Like in the Gambia, we have like the superior courts, and then we have the subordinate courts. So let's say the superior courts are like the higher courts, and then the subordinate courts are like the lower courts. So I'll start from the subordinate courts. The most common court obviously in the subordinate court is the magistrate court, where a lot of people like lodge their complaint. Most especially, there is actually aside from the magistrate court, there are actually tribunals. There is a district tribunal. We have the industrial tribunal. We also have rent tribunal, and then we also have the children's court. And all these things have like they take complaints from the public. But like I said, the most common lower court that is used is, of course, the magistrate court. Let's say the children's court, we take like complaints with regards to matters with regards to child maintenance, as well as criminal matters that has to do with minors that are like people below the age of 18 years. And we also have the rent tribunals, which most rent complaints are supposed to be channeled to, but as like I said, the most common lower court used is the magistrate court. So most of the times when people have issues with regards to rent notices, they always tend to like file their cases in the magistrate court. And we also have the industrial tribunal that has to do with employer-employee relationships. So that's it. And then we have the highest court, of course. Sorry, I forgot to mention the Kadi court as well. That's also part of the lower court.
What does the Kadi court do?
They do it's like the Islamic court. It has to do with matters with regards to marriage and divorces of women as well. Cases with regards to marriages that were done in the Islamic way.
Okay, but what about the subordinate? The superior courts. What courts do we have there?
We have like the High Court, we have the Court of Appeal, and as well as the Supreme Court. And the High Court is take complaints from the magistrate court, but you can also file cases in the High Court depending on the claim that you have. Like there are some cases, some capital offense cases, which cannot be filed in the magistrate court. You have to file straight in the High Court, like let's say murder cases. And also even when it comes to financial cases, there's certain amount that should not be filed in the magistrate court, but you have to file straight at the High Court.
Okay. Yes. Okay. And then we have the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court as well as you. So the Supreme Court, I think, would be the highest court that we have.
Yes, in this jurisdiction.
Yes. Knowing that we have all of these courts, and normally that's where people go to resolve their disputes.
Yes.
You've said at the legal aid you represent women as well as men, etc., and sometimes minors, children.
Yeah.
But how easy is it for women to access the Gambia's justice system or the Gambia's court system?
It is not easy, like, because there are so many things that are stopping them, in as much as like we're trying to make justice so accessible in recent times. It is still inaccessible to some people based on the location, because let's say in this area, at least of recent, they have decentralized the court system, because before the High Court was just in Banjul, but now the court system have been decentralized. At least we have High Court in Bakau, we have in Bundum, we have in Brikama. So
I think Basse as well.
Yes, it's making things easier. But even at that, people are not informed, because if you don't know that this exists, how would you go to a place that you have no idea that it exists? So I believe one of the issues that we're facing in this jurisdiction when it comes to women accessing justice is the fact that they're not even aware that the justice system exists. That as a woman, if someone impedes on your rights, or if you are deprived, you have somewhere that you can actually bring your complaint to. So they don't know that. And also, to some extent, those that actually are aware of the fact that they can lodge complaint, they can bring a claim in the court, they feel somehow, because of society, they feel like they will be discriminated, they will be, they will be looked down upon. Okay, so why am I going to bring a complaint? Why should I bring a complaint before the court? How will people see me? So because of that, they tend not to do it, because of other people's opinion, because of how people will see them. And for them, they feel like they're doing the right thing. You know how women can be in the society. They always feel like they're inferior, and the voice of like the other gender is superior. So when you say this is the way we think, because that's how we were brought up. Unlike now that because of education and other exposure, we tend to do things because we feel like, okay, we have a right to do. Most women don't even know that they have a right to certain things. So I believe that's the fact that they're not informed, they're not educated, they don't know that they're supposed to even reach out to people to help them in whatever it is they're going through.
So I completely agree. I completely agree, because often you would see women who, even outside of like civil financial cases that involve finances, you know, you'd see women going through divorces who need representation, like your ex-husband could sue you at the Kadi court or the magistrate's court for child custody, but they don't even know how to get support. They don't even know that they can go to court to defend themselves. So I think the issue of illiteracy or unawareness is a big factor. I agree that it's a big factor to women accessing justice. But what about the financial bit? Is it financially easy for us to access our courts? Can women easily access the courts in terms of the court processes? For example, like, do you have to pay money to go to file processes in court? What does that look like?
Of course, you have to pay money. Like, let's say for example, we have let's say legal aid.
Yeah.
According to the legal aid, when it comes to civil cases, I believe Section 32 states that you're free to have access, obviously, to legal aid, but in criminal cases, of course, when you cannot afford representation, the government, you have a right to be represented by the National Agency for Legal Aid. But then when it comes to civil representation, Section 32 of the Legal Aid Act states that the government first has to determine the minimum wage. And when it comes to the minimum wage, we all know that in the society that we grew up in, most women, it's now that, I mean, some of us are going to school. Some of our parents, grandparents, they didn't go to school. Most of the things that they do is all this farming, agriculture.
They don't have formal employment here.
If someone is involved in that, and let's say the government finally determines what a minimum wage is, can most of these women afford civil services? Like, we all know how much lawyers charge.
Yeah.
Just to go and see them, they charge
consultation fee. Yeah.
Yes. So imagine now if I have to bring my claim that, okay, I've been deprived of this, my husband is claiming this and this, we work together. So that's a lot. So that is one way, in as much as there is the legal aid, but then I believe it's like a discrepancy, because if at all eventually that minimum wage is determined, how many women will be able to access justice? Because in as much as most of them are now working and are earning, but majority, we all know that there are still majority of women that still don't have opportunity to go to school, that are still involved in petty trading. So they cannot really afford access to justice. But the legal aid is still there. Of course, if it's a criminal claim, you have full representation. But outside that, when it comes to civil, I believe, and I know there is also the existence of FLAG, Female Lawyers Association. I believe they are also helping. But then how many lawyers as well will be willing to take pro bono cases? So that's also another issue.
I absolutely agree, especially with the issue of the legal aid, because pinning women's ability to get legal assistance in civil cases to a minimum wage in a country where, you know, a lot of the women do not have formal employment. I think that's a bit, it's a bit of an oversight, or it's a bit unfair, because then how do you ascertain what this woman is earning from example, selling at the market? How do you ascertain if that, you know, matches the legal aid, the minimum wage and whatnot, to be able to access the court processes? So I completely agree with that. Yes. So apart from the financial aspect of it, I've read, you know, I think it was a speech given by Justice Jawara Alami at an event, at a conference somewhere, and she was speaking about women representation within the judicial system, as in the number of women or female judges and female magistrates that we have. Do you think seeing women in those places plays a role in how willing women are to accessing the court system?
Yeah, I believe it does, because some people might feel comfortable. Well, it's not like I'm trying to discriminate the other gender.
No.
But then, like, let's say I'm a woman, especially if I don't really understand how the justice system works, and sorry to say, I am an illiterate. I don't have a formal training, and then I go to a place and then I see someone that is exactly like me coming to me to speak to me. I believe a woman will tend to put their trust in that person, especially, let's say, if it's a matter of divorce and they feel like it's the male that is depriving them of their home, their kids, money, and all those things. They will be able to relate more with a woman rather than a man. So I believe, to some extent, it helps, because it even encourages them to see that outside what you're doing, you can do better. You can. There are a lot of opportunities. It does not only stop at what you're doing, selling vegetables, selling fruit. If this person, I mean, some people have become judges, some lawyers that I know. It's not like they're from families that have it all. Some
Yes.
are from but some actually it's their parents selling vegetables that was able to take them through school, and at the end of the day they got scholarship.
Yeah.
And so it can encourage them to also become better. And I believe also they will have faith in the justice system, especially if they feel like they are being harmed by men.
Yeah.
So to some extent, I believe it will help.
What can we do to make that possible?
I believe awareness, because of recent, a lot of girls have been going to school, because before, how we were trained as an African woman, you grow up, you have to go to your husband's house. There's no need for school. There's no need for anything. All you are trained for is how to be a good wife.
Yeah.
But then over the time, because of education and exposure, we see that that trend is changing, even though there's still some people that are still hell-bent on that. I believe we have tried, but we still have a lot of work to do.
There's still a long way to go.
Maybe in the urban areas we might not. Sorry, in the urban area. But then if you go to rural Gambia, you still see a lot of that trend where girls are not allowed to go to school. Even in the urban, you still go to some compounds.
Yeah.
You see some ladies there, they are still not going to school. So we have a work to raise awareness that you have to go to school, you have to learn, you have to be exposed to certain things in order for you to be able to solve certain problems.
Yes.
Because if you don't have that exposure, you won't be able to solve that problem. So that's what I believe.
We've spoken a bit about the barriers to women accessing justice, and I believe we've talked about the literacy issue. We've talked about the financial barrier as well. Are there other barriers that women face when they actually get into the system? You know, for a woman who files a case before the court, are there any specific barriers that you think they would encounter within, let's say, the trial process?
Well, I believe they also face discrimination from the society. That is because if you don't file a case, obviously the society will not know that, okay, you're involved in this. But because of, let's say, it's their right and they're trying to claim what belongs to them. But then the society who is misinformed or not even informed or does not even have any idea of, they start discriminating you because you're a woman. I mean, because I'm a woman does not mean I don't have a right to claim what is mine. So one of the things that also make people not to come to justice, women especially, is because of discrimination. They face social discrimination. So they don't even know. And also another thing, in as much as women are not informed, they don't also know the process. That is one thing they face. They don't know the road to justice, how to. Maybe they will know that, okay, if this happened, I can report to so. But how do I go about it? And it is left to us that are aware to make them know that, okay, as a woman, if you have a claim or you're deprived, you can come to the court. The court is actually there to help you, not to destroy you.
Yeah.
So we need to raise more awareness for people to not only be aware, not only be informed, but for them to know how to go about filing cases, which court to go, because there are different courts, like I mentioned earlier, and also not to feel like that they are wrong for being discriminated, because you will be discriminated.
Yeah.
There is no way, whether even in other, like, let's say, cases that are not involved women, men, you are discriminated for even going to court, and let's say you have a dispute in your family and you tend to report to the police. Everybody tends to say, okay, why are you doing this? Like, it's my right to do that. So why is everybody, it's my right. So why is the whole world against me for doing the right thing?
Yeah.
So I feel like discrimination and awareness, and also to also show them how to come to justice, are also some of the challenges, aside from the financial challenge that they face.
Yeah, I agree. And in terms of, you talked about the process itself, understanding the court process, and just knowing how to even make their way to the courts to get the justice that they deserve, regardless of the discrimination and any other challenges that they may face. In your experience working with the legal aid and also in private practice, Are there any specific tools that are available during trial that could help, for example, an illiterate woman who has a case in court or who is serving as a witness in court? Like, for example, if the person doesn't understand English, because the courts, the language of the court is English language, it's the official language.
Yeah.
So do we have tools like that, tools within the court system that could help women who are not educated and who need extra support to understand the actual proceedings, the example, during trial?
Yes, we do, because like when you are in court, aside from English language, we have like interpreters.
Okay.
And most of the time you'll be asked the language that you speak. If you speak Wolof, Mandinka, Fula, like I've also been in court once, and then the accused person was like, I speak Manjago, and they had to look for someone that speaks Manjago, because you have a right, because you cannot communication is one of the way we put across whatever it is that we do in court. And if you cannot understand what is being said, then what's the point of going to a place that you can't understand and they can't?
Absolutely.
So one of the things is the language barrier, but then at least when you are in court, probably out of court, you might face a little challenge.
Yeah.
But then when you are in court and proceedings are ongoing, at least you'll be able to like understand why you are there, and why, like, because witnesses, everybody tends to speak the language that they are comfortable in. And then they also have interpreters that interprets to you what exactly is said in court. So the only challenge might be outside court. Let's say you're going to see a lawyer, or you just walk into the court, you want to make a complaint, because sometimes, especially in subordinate courts, like let's say magistrate court, you can file cases by yourself. So you
can?
Yes, you probably just meet you just go to the registrar in the court and you explain. Hopefully they will understand what you're trying to say, because most of them actually speak the different local languages.
Okay.
Yes. So I believe to some extent they're trying, because even when you don't get to understand, they always find a way to reach out to someone that will be able to communicate to the person.
I think that's a great thing, or an important thing that women should know.
Yes.
To know that even though I don't have formal education, I still can access the court system.
Yes.
I can go to the court and say, listen, I have this issue, but I don't understand English language. So I need the proceedings to be interpreted to me in a language that I understand. Because I believe, this may be a personal opinion, may be wrong, but I believe there may be women who need support in the courts, but who are hesitant to go because they feel like I don't speak English, so I wouldn't understand what's happening there. So why would I go? Why would I go to court? With all of that, I think you mentioned that you can go to the magistrate's court, for example, and go to the registrar and ask them for support to file a claim in court. How would you do that if you wanted to file a claim in the magistrate's court? To explain that to, let's say, just a very simple explanation for the layperson to understand how they would how they would file a claim at the magistrate's court or the Cadi court or children's court. I think they're all similar, but like, how would they go about it?
Okay, so I have experience, I have filed cases, of course, both in the children's court and then in the magistrate court, but that's like a formal way. But then let's say if you are a person, let's say a woman that has a complaint, you can easily just walk into the magistrate court. There is always the registrar there, and you can just explain. And of course, they can help you, like they will help you write it. You, of course, pay a filing fee, which is most of the time not expensive. Like, it's very, very, very cheap. You tend to pay sometimes as low as $50 to $25, depending on what exactly you're filing. It can go more than that, like I said, depending on your claim and other things, other documents and whatever it is. And you can file it, and there's always a process server there. If you want to file the other party, they can always assign you to a process server. You can go with. It's that simple. It's not difficult. That is, if you don't want to seek the services of a lawyer. Yeah.
Or if you cannot afford the services of a lawyer.
Yes, if you can't. For a civil claim.
For a civil claim.
Yes.
Okay. That's simple for women to know. So is this limited to only women who are of Gambian nationality, or can any woman who lives in the Gambia access the courts?
Any woman, like as long as you have a claim, the court is open to everybody. Every individual, male, female, Gambian, non-Gambian, as long as you have a claim, a legit claim, and you feel like you need to bring it before justice, then you can do it. You can. It's that simple. So we're encouraging people to be doing that instead of shying away, and you feel like, okay, if I take my case to the court, it's going to be this, it might turn against me. But then we're encouraging people basically to come to justice.
Yeah, to come. And like you've said before, outside of legal aid, if you cannot afford legal representation, we have organizations like NALA.
Yeah,
and I think sometimes if you, like NALA, but also like FLAG.
Yes.
And sometimes I think, I may be wrong, but if you approach the Bar Association, they may also be able to find a lawyer who can, take on a pro bono case for you.
So we're supposed to, as lawyers.
Yes, as lawyers, you are supposed to do, I think there's a certain amount of pro bono case if you're in private practice that you're supposed to take on per year. So I think, yes, we do have these facilities. It's just that, like you said, people do not know, especially women do not know that they have access to these facilities. We've spoken at length about the barriers, the problems that exist. I think it's time we also look at the possible solutions for these barriers, because wherever you have a problem, instead of focusing on the problems, we need to look at how to remedy the solutions. What solutions we can put in place to make it better, to make the justice system more accessible for women? What are your thoughts on that? What can we do to make the justice system more accessible to women?
Well, for me, I feel it's to raise more awareness, because to be honest, there are a lot of laws that have been put in place with regards to women and access to justice. Even when it comes to the legal aid part, if you take away the issue with the minimum wage, when you commit an offense, I'm not saying you should as a woman, but when you do and you can't afford a legal, legal representation, you will be afforded one. It's provided for in the Legal Aid Act. And aside from the National Agency for Legal Aid that is also helping, there is also FLAG. I believe they're established to help sensitize women, to help women with legal representation. And even the Constitution also made provision for it, Section 28 of the Constitution, that women shall be accorded full and equal dignity as well as men. So which means you also have a right to have access to justice, but they are not informed. And aside from that, there was also the enactment of the Women's Act 2010. So like there are all those instruments.
I think the Women's Act also has a provision on access to justice for women.
It said women, like it says that a woman is entitled to equality and justice before the law and equal protection of the law. So this provision is there, it's stated, but then they're not even aware. So if you don't know, so let's say you have an issue, and then let's say you're facing a challenge with someone, you don't even know that the person is tormenting you, like torturing you. You feel like you don't have a way out because you're not even informed. So I feel like we should raise more awareness. That's the more, like, people should be educated about the law. Well, there is a saying that ignorance of the law is no excuse. But trust me, this is causing a lot of harm. Because let's say, if you are the victim, it's bad. Because you don't even know that you have this opportunity to come before the law. But then you're just there suffering in silence. And aside from the local laws, there are also international treaties that the Gambia has signed to that gives us also the opportunity as women to come before the law. There is the CEDAW, Article 15 also. There's also the African Charter on Human Rights, as well as the Maputo Protocol, like all those things. But like I said, awareness is the main problem. I think that's where it starts from.
That is where
most people are uninformed. So we need to let people know.
This awareness raising that you speak of, whose responsibility is it? Is it the state's responsibility? Is it CSOs, private NGOs, or is it a joint responsibility? But who
believe
bears the
it's a
responsibility
joint.
to raise awareness?
I believe it's a joint, which brings us it's everybody's job to do it, because I feel like you as a lawyer,
Yeah.
if you're doing what you do and you know that people are being deprived because they don't know, I think it's your responsibility for you to inform those people.
Yeah.
And I believe this program, this talk show, is one of them. If only people will listen,
Yeah.
at least you have an idea that, okay, I can reach out.
Yeah.
I can, but then it's rather unfortunate.
Yeah.
So I believe education is the
education is always the
Yeah.
key. I completely agree. Education
I
is
believe
always the
education
key
is-
because, as we said from the beginning, women don't know the rights that they have, but also the protections that they have in
They
this country.
don't.
So education is really the key. And to me, one of the most important is understanding what the legal system of this country is and how it affects your daily life. I believe that is really important. But Elizabeth, we've had a really good conversation. I've enjoyed the
you.
conversation.
Thank
I've
you
learned,
so much.
from you. And I hope that the people watching this podcast would also learn
I
from
hope so
the
too, 'cause I
knowledge
also
that
enjoyed
you've shared. Yes. In what would you say in conclusion with regards to women's access to justice in the Gambia?
Well, like I said when I started, I believe we are trying, but we're not yet there. So I believe we should continue raising awareness as much as we can. That let us let people know. Anywhere you go, you can actually talk to people. Sometimes you might be in a place where a woman is being beaten brutally, and they have no idea that they can actually lodge a complaint.
Or
So
that
if
you
you
can
are
do
in
it on
a-
their
yeah,
behalf if they
you
don't want
yes,
to.
if you are in a position to tell them, because like I said, some people are afraid of discrimination, and some people don't even know that they have a right to bring a complaint.
Yeah.
So if you are in that position, I believe you can actually inform them, because it's not everybody that has the access to go to school like you. But if we can raise awareness, and we can't do it in group, you as a person can start today. You can start now. I believe that one person that you tell will make a change.
Tell someone to tell someone, and then
Yes.
we all learn.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for a
welcome.
very, very, very interesting and enlightening conversation. As we said in the beginning, this is the Lawhub podcast brought to you by Lawhub Gambia and produced by Right Click. We hope that you would join us in subsequent episodes for this phase of the Lawhub podcast series, and see you next week.
Thank you.